Yeah, the comparative advantage must have sincere altruism goals for partners and humanity at large. These goals must establish parity and advancement via self-determination as core values. Roads and hospitals are noble, I believe, but ultimately, I would argue that they are not concrete tangibles towards aiding the country to achieve market share within trade sectors. It's great. I'm gonna have in there the video here from YouTube that's gonna be talking about money and macro. The YouTube page is Money and Macro, excuse me. It's Money and Macro is the YouTube page. And the response that I'm going to be referencing here, and it's pretty much consistent with a lot of the gloom and doom out there. They're not doing their homework on what was actually proven to occur with the tariffs, which is why everyone went back to the polls and voted for Trump to be reelected because they remember what occurred during that 2017, 2018 years of prosperity going into 2019. Okay, and the money and macro titled that we're going to have up here is what Trump will do to the global economy. And again, I think it's great. He's going to talk about how we are the greatest exporter.
Economy, an economy that is the main export market for the world's biggest economies and, crucially, an economy that produces the world's reserve currency.
For up-and-coming countries such as those in sub-Saharan Africa, of course, this Africa Times News, there must be societal upward mobility in living standards and purchasing power for global balance. Sustained fiscal outlook in the U.S. goes hand in hand with world parity, I believe, with Trump in power. This Africa Time News address will be conducting a reaction analysis, as I just alluded to, of that Money and Macro page. This will include a breakdown of the Economist publication articles that Money and Macro, what Trump would do to the global economy. He also referenced Scott Bessent and Nadia Shadlow. I referenced and reviewed those articles as well.
And as the mighty US dollar shot up right after it became clear that Trump won the election. This likely happened because currency traders were betting that Trump will spend more, causing inflation, and this then will cause the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates to counter that inflation. Then higher interest rates will attract more foreign capital to US markets, causing the dollar to rise. This is the second key effect Trump's spending will have on the global economy, which relies heavily on borrowing and lending in US dollars. So while increased spending on the one hand may help the global economy, this will partially be offset by the fact that the Fed will have to raise rates, which will make global dollar borrowing and spending more costly. This will especially hurt global dollar borrowers like Egypt, Turkey and Argentina, even though it may help global dollar lenders like China, Japan and Germany. On the other hand, if the Elon scenario happens and global trade crashes, we can expect the Federal Reserve to partially offset this by lowering interest rates instead. So, in conclusion, Trump having won means that the global economy faces two fairly extreme scenarios. The first scenario is the Trump 1.0 boom scenario with higher US imports and higher interest rates, benefiting exporters despite the threat of tariffs. The second scenario is the Elon Musk austerity scenario, which will lead to lower trade and lower interest rates, ruining exporters while potentially providing some relief for global borrowers. Right now, financial markets believe the Trump 1.0 boom scenario with higher US spending, inflation and interest rates is the most likely. I personally would not bet money on it though, as Milei in Argentina has shown that radical right-wing spending cuts do sometimes actually materialize, leading to a recession. One thing is certain though, and that is that this type of radical uncertainty is bad news for the long-term attractiveness of the US dollar as a global reserve currency and for global trade in general. That being said, as this graph has shown, global trade has been unbalanced for decades now. Key Trump economic advisor Scott Bessent recently said.
Lastly, another publication of reference will be the Forbes article written by William Arruda within the context of the International Black Forum and Grand Marine Staffing. We will discuss how a second Trump administration should be navigated with steps we need to continue to strive towards African prosperity. And I'm going to have this clip here from the Money in Macro, go into it, and then I have my reaction about his claims about government spending on stimulus. And I said the government spending on stimulus alone is not what motivated consumers, causing a surge in purchases of imports. That occurred. The spending that's being referenced is during the COVID hoax that began in 2019 that forced Americans to stay in the house. Yes, this did boost exports of other countries to the U.S. However, the data from the U.S. International Trade Commission demonstrates that imports as well as exports reversed negative trajectories from 2016 to 2018, well before Trump allowed his government to be hijacked by the tyrannical liberal states and cities, as he took the stage with the mad scientist Fauci to justify the inflationary COVID PPP entrapment loan spending. That entrapment loan spending is false to associate tariffs with having a hurtful impact to exports of other nations to the U.S. That's false information. It's also false to associate a lack of government handouts with spending to a prelude to a recession. When we saw growth in imports and exports with selected tariffs and lowered taxes from 2016 to 2018. We're going to talk a little bit more about that crucial time frame here from 2016 to 2018 with the Trade Commission data later in the presentation. We're going to continue that analysis. Stimulus did not make Americans richer because they were now sitting at home instead of continuing to be the prime movers of national fiscal prosperity. The lowered taxes was fuel and riches to these prime mover U.S. consumers. The data from the Trade Commission is going to reflect the energy independence we enjoyed that provided the fuel to riches to the prime mover U.S. consumers of a peaceful, secure, and prosperous global fiscal engine. We were the prime movers of that fiscal engine. If the financial market shot up with the election of Trump, okay, how is this predicting that the U.S. will have bad outcomes? That's what he's going to do. You know, when he's talking about right now is November the 13th. And ever since Trump has won his second presidency, there's been great movement in the markets. And he has bad analysis of why it's moving in the positive. He's saying that they're making this spike because of he has negative assumptions. And I'm going to address those. We can't assume that Trump is going to be a pushover for the next hoax. He's saying that Trump is going to continue spending. He has these unfounded claims of spending that he's accusing Trump of, besides the PPP. Even with the PPP, okay? Even with the PPP spending, Trump's spending is not what Biden spent or what Obama was proposing to spend. And most of it was even less than Obama's spending. And so this notion that he's a big spender and that's going to increase inflation is not founded on the facts of his spending, um, especially during the 2018 and 2017 and 2018. Okay, maybe the markets are responding positively because the dollar would be strong as it was from 2016 to 2018 with much lower interest rates than they are now. So there's room for that. I'm going to talk about that yet. So yet we can see that the interest rates during the 2016 to 2018 years are much lower than they are now, which means there is room for Chairman Powell to reduce rates to those pre-COVID hoax levels again, which means we are not mandated to consuming the narrative with doom and gloom prospects for global borrowing. People are going to be able to borrow with those rates continuing to go down, as he announced the day after the Trump's election as well. They're going to be able to borrow, and then again, Trump is going to be more he's going to be more he's going to be more prone in aiding other nations to reach comparative advantage, to be compatible, to be a compatible nation. And so that's what needs to be done. Okay. It's ridiculous to associate the cuts in spending that are proposed by Elon Musk with austerity. Elon is proposing a huge 2-year severance package that is practically a grant these impacted workers can use to their investment portfolio as they easily locate quickly the next opportunity from the next jobs boom that is about to commence with the 47th administration. Again, the agenda is not radical in that it's not uncertain and unprecedented at this point. This presenter of the Money and Macro podcast just refuses to reference the truth of those 2016 to 2018 data. Let's talk about these imbalances, which gets us to the articles of Scott and Nadia. The study of these experts led me to how I began this presentation in speaking of the comparative advantage. Nadia speaks to the fact, first off, let's talk about Nadia speaking about how the EU is proposing 45% tariffs on Chinese EVs. It's hypocritical for the media and the masses of the YouTube echo chamber to bash U.S. tariffs while ignoring that others are more viciously protectionist. Okay, the Belt and Road Initiative, in my opinion, does not seem to champion a relationship that nurtures the expedited development of compatible nations to provide China with export markets comparable to the U.S. Okay, this failed sense of urgency makes China vulnerable to consideration of draconian reactionary tyranny, such as the COVID hoax. All right, locking their people down. At least they recovered from it quickly, being in control of the supply chains. Treating other nations as the U.S. with borrowing is not going to enhance the comparative advantage compatibility. Committed genuine grants invested in BRIC nations, similar to those the U.S. granted post-World War II Japan, or which China began receiving as trade with the West was restored in 1979, would create empowered new consumers for China and these developing countries to overcome the EU tariffs. Okay, the Belt and Road Initiative, in addition to the reactionary snail-like implementing of the bilateral currency agenda for the so-called anger at U.S. sanctions as the reserve currency, doesn't excite my revolutionary spirit. These BRIC initiatives, in contrast to Trump's 2014 or 2018 import-export trade record, they don't compete with the development of nations to a compatible status, and that's what the numbers going to reflect once I get to those numbers here in these screenshots I've taken of that U.S. International Trade Commission. We're going to look at those and examine those real quick. And one of them here I'm about to allude here to is the U.S. machinery exports and imports both rose during this time. Okay, machinery, of course, being a means to develop comparative advantage of compatibility. If you're a developing nation, now you're hiring workers who then become consumers who are now able to purchase imports from other nations. The stable moderate interest rates we saw during the 2014-2018 periods allow nations to borrow and manufacture to export these specialized equipment items that the data demonstrates the U.S. was able to increase purchases of. Let's be clear, the government spending did not increase the imports of machinery that's reflected in the 2017 and 2018 reports. Private prosperity increased the imports of machinery. Okay, increased activity in this sector of machinery is proportionate to the relevant skilled trades, and my current first mention here is promised of the Grand Marine staffing. These machine manufacturers and their recruiting agencies, they call me every day. 15 minutes after Trump won the elections, I had some steel companies calling me. Again, this surge of skilled trade seekers is also proportionate to wage increases. Okay, this is the recurrent scenario for each sector from the U.S. International Trade Commission report from that time frame. Okay, we are having with the Grand Marine staff, and we're going to have a pre-Christmas International Black Forum hiring webinar on December 21st, and the completion of my enlistment from the Navy, of course, a great Navy day of December 22nd. Registration for the event is currently ongoing. Email us at grandmarinestaffing@gmail.com. Let's see if we can get that in there. grandmarinestaffing@gmail.com. Everything is how it sounds, lowercase there. So that we're going to conduct a skill assessment analysis to begin training if needed, and career opportunity review. We're currently specializing with development and placements within journeyman electrical, maintenance technician, PLC, of course, automation programming, HVAC automation, controls engineering, boiler technician, machine technician of appliances, and within that, your convection ovens, deep fat fryers, reefers, of course, associated equipment with that. As I said, the reefers, water towers, boilers, all of these positions. I ensure that you continue with your accreditations. Industrial machine technicians, all types of presses, your punch brakes, your CNC machines, thermoformers, the extruders, generator technicians, all of these positions is currently what we're specializing in right now. And of course, we look to continue to expand those areas. And the development, it has an on-demand aspect that expedites your ability to make your submission. And during the webinar, we're going to briefly cover as well the cross-training strategy that's going to enable you to avoid burnout and function with a lot of groundbreaking methods of employability. That's and it's continuing to expand. That's what you can review. It'd be great to review this article here, no, that's that. I want to talk about this article, this Forbes article there about, here it is, this Forbes article by William there, William Aruda, about why polyworking is the future of work and how to become a polyworker. And he talks about a lot of similar benefit attributes that the Grand Marine staffing is champion. We're going to champion with our cross-training initiative. He's speaking about a variation of that involves a lot of tech workers. Ours will involve those attributes as well that can get you in front of those tech workers. It would definitely allow that. I'm speaking on it more so from a skilled trades perspective. Okay, and we'll have on-demand experts who we have relationship as well with, who can expedite the implementation of your accreditations, and have on-demand expertise that we'll be communicating to the employers. And we're going to be talking about at the webinar how that's going to complete your initial presentation package, your career highlights package, in addition to your skill assessments of your previous experiences and equipment exposure. And yeah, those are we get to some more of these. Yeah, they're saying that Trump, he had the least spending record here. If you come here and you look at the energy-related products there, and that translated to the lower gas prices that we saw, that 161 there is 2014. And you can see that continued to go down, and then immediately that 144 there is in the 2017 year. So your energy independence there is developing, and it reached that immediate height there. You can see that's a 35% difference. And so it was across the board, in all of these areas. That translates into jobs. Definitely the jobs within the skill sets that I'm talking about. And so that's what you have to conclude is going to immediately be the current situation that we can anticipate. Are these type of exceptional numbers? Across the board, these are with the exports, U.S. total exports. Those are jobs so these are definitely directly correlated to job creations. And as you can see, because those numbers immediately boomed, that's how the jobs were immediately booming, okay? And you see it's very steep from 2016 to 2017, a steep immediate shift. And so, that's what you have to anticipate. It's going to happen here. It's going to happen now. Let me see if I got the exports in this. Yeah, we got the imports. And so other nations, they're telling you that the other nations are going to be upset about Trump, and that's not reflected here. Rachel also speaks about how there's a lot of cohesion that you can anticipate. Because of the dependencies here. This is one of the examples here. Europe, she says, Mr. Trump would point out, is now setting itself up for dependence on China for renewable energy systems and electric vehicles. Okay. Trump wants to reduce American dependence on critical minerals, so would be a willing partner to Europe in the effort. And so, there's no reason to anticipate doom and gloom as the entirety of the story. When we talk about the depression, again, the depression-related tariffs, most of that was agricultural based. I don't think that the U.S. are going to be highlighting tariffs on agricultural items, nor is there a reason to anticipate recession if you was to compare it towards what we saw in 2017 and 2018 with these numbers that we're just looking at here. Some other highlights here. Excuse me. And I think that's pretty much it, a quick summary. Okay, and the Grand Marine staff, and you can check us out on blackforumsolution.com/Grand Marines. Or as soon as you go to the page at blackforumsolution.com, you just click the tab and then it'll take you down to the Grand Marine staffing page. And there's other relevant attributes that you could anticipate in there. And then, during the webinar, it's gonna be, I know I'm doing this economic talk can be boring. The webinar, we're gonna infuse it with hip hop, the International Black Forum platforms that and events that we host usually are always within the itinerary and has a hip hop R&B showcase of different creative crafts, poetry, and so forth. And so we'll have those attributes and also announcements for in-person events that are also have an itinerary of open mics and catering of cultural dishes. And so we're going to we're complementary to tangibles that's of resource and to your bottom line and your development, and having affirmations within your narrative, and also having event-based and collective efforts within events where we can be fiscally progressive with our endeavors, and having business entrepreneurship at the center of our cohesion and endeavoring. And so I think that's pretty much I wanted to do a follow-up on the tariffs and what's been proven from the tariffs. It hasn't been reckless spending. Trump had, we saw, I didn't pull up the numbers here for the spending. Let's get to the numbers here on spending there. I talked about them, but let's actually pull them up here. I have them. There they are. No, that's the, and I think these the numbers here. Now those the interest rates. Yeah, the interest rates, there's no we have room still to come down with the interest rates. And so there's no reason to think that, and that's going to open up a whole lot of opportunity for mortgages and the renovation and those aspects and all of the building materials and imports in those sectors. Because we have room that we don't have to anticipate that the spending is going to be that the interest rates is going to be at a heightened area, or that the spending as well. We're going to get to the spending right here. Okay. The highest spending there for was 2020, of course, for the $7 trillion. I'm not counting that. What's this? Yeah, well, you can just go straight here to Trump here for 2017. Well, they're counting Obama's administration for the 2017 numbers, and Trump still had he spent less than Obama's final year in 2017 at 33 or 3 trillion, excuse me, 3 trillion was less than the 2017, the 2018 budget Trump had was less than the 2017. And then each other year, of course, even with COVID, it only went up like $1 billion more than the pre-COVID years. So that spending was maintained. In comparison to Biden, he immediately went to the 4 trillion and maintained it there and escalated and heightened it, and increased that to 4.6 trillion, 4.8, and then 5, and then 5.3 for the current year. And so what we can anticipate then from this is that this 5 trillion is about to immediately be reduced to 3.5 and take off 2. That's going to be an unprecedented reduction that you have to that the numbers show you is going to be attainable, especially with the audit. It's going to even be less. Okay, so you have to anticipate a huge reduction from this 5.3 high of Joe back to these manageable numbers of Trump that were these expenses of Trump was on a trajectory lower than Obama. So it's not consistent with the numbers to say that a lack of spending is going to cause austerity and hardship. Okay, 2017, as you saw, Trump was able to decrease the spending, and we saw how across the board, all of those imports and exports of prosperity increased for the world and the U.S. Okay, with less spending, we just saw that right here. It says that in 2017, with that is again that moderate spending that Trump had in comparison to his second predecessor and the first predecessor, because as you can see, the Obama administration proposed a budget for 4.2 trillion for the 2017. So it's reasonable to assume, we know Obama was running Joe Biden's administration, so it's reasonable to assume that since Obama proposed a budget of 4.2 trillion for 2017, that he was going to continue to increase the budget as Joe Biden did, because he proposed the 4.2 trillion. Trump didn't need that amount. He used less than that. Again, as we see right there, it was 3.98, close to 4, but it was less, and then it began to even dip down after that. And so that's what you can expect, and then you can expect the prosperity that was, again, the imports and exports that was a chain with that. Whereas we saw with Obama with those numbers, you remember he said that we're not gonna, the days of 3 and 4% GDP were over, is what Obama told us. And we see these numbers here where he was saying that is reflected with his pessimism. In each of his numbers, you can see the prosperity was shrinking, agricultural products. Well, this here, they did get hit. Agricultural products did get hit. That was the only item that Trump had to subsidize with the retaliatory methods from China. Again, that's good in the long term because the U.S. agriculture needs to be diversified. Needs to be diverse. They need to have diverse exports. Okay, but everything else, as you can see across the board, um, um, it was pretty much it was flat with the forest products, chemical related products. Again, this is one that was going down and then began to rise immediately. Energy related, of course, we see how huge and how vital that is because that's going to increase your bottom line there. That's going to allow you to have more money in your pocket. Everybody, all the businesses, if they save with fuel, they get to hire more, they get to give better bonuses. You have less money. You have less money going to gas, so that's putting more money in your pocket on your commute and so forth. Um, your travel, all of that, your tickets to vacation is now, you get more bang for your buck for vacation. Okay, the textiles and apparel, that was pretty flat. Uh, Footwear began to increase at 8%, almost 10% increase. Minerals and metals, those vital minerals and metals, that's a China that needs to be hurt anyway and starts to increase in those areas. We see the machinery increasing. Actually, the minerals and metals did increase by 8%, and where they were beginning to decline, they had a steep decline even at 2016, and then immediately reversed. 2017 continued the decline again, almost 8-10%. You know, so all of those jobs increased. Look at that, special provisions, 13%. Everything across the board, um, you see here, was improved. Okay, and so this reflected the prosperity of the Americans. Now translated into, still sharing our prosperity with the rest of the world and imports across the board. So, everyone's still happy with us as partners and allies. So none of the doom and gloom is, as I said yesterday, in the last publication, it was unfounded. And these are the numbers that's showing you that the doom and gloom scenarios are unfounded. So the markets remember that, and they remember it not for hedging against the prosperity. They're not hedging against good results with this boom in the economy. Is not a hedge to anticipate failure. And so it'd be who of journalists for their credibility when we reflect upon what their messages were at this juncture to have some enthusiasm. And so I think that's pretty much it. That's my take. Hopefully I don't have to we don't have to keep beating this tariff thing with the bat. I don't think we are. I think the results we see with the numbers here, they're pretty expeditious with revealing their effectiveness. My phone has been more active already with jobs and their enthusiasm, and so I anticipate that it's just going to continue to have the same proven results that it had, that's reflected in these 2017, 2018 numbers. It's the Boiler Monk MC, Surface Air Warfare Qualified Boiler Monk Umeme.